What's going on, YouTube? Bacon here, bringing you another video. First one in quite some time. You're probably pretty surprised to be seeing one from me, considering I just recently announced that I'll be taking an indefinite break, maybe retirement, from Pokemon. You can read the details on Discord if you haven't already, as to why I'm retiring. But yeah, I thought it would be nice to just kind of go over some of my LD games. I'll go through the whole season in kind of patches, so I'll do 3 games here. Basically just 3 at a time, more or less, over the span of a few videos, just to go over my experience there. I might cover some of my other recent performances as well, as in Clash of Kings, maybe my DPL season as well. I know that stuff's kind of a few weeks to months past at this point, but I thought it'd be kind of cool to go back and go over some of my games now that I won't be playing really, at least for the time being. But yeah, so starting out here, I got into LD Minors this season. And obviously it's a promotion-based system, so you play well, you get to Majors, Masters. If you don't play well, you relegate. Obviously, there's nowhere to relegate to from Minors, except not in the league anymore, which I don't think is like a guaranteed thing, even if you perform poorly. But obviously I wanted to do well and wanted to kind of rise up through Majors, Masters. But starting off here in Minors, obviously the competition in LD is the highest that you're pretty much going to get in a YouTube league. LD, Hive, generally considered the 2 strongest leagues that are out there, so I was really happy to get an invite. Shout out to, I think Saint and Hiker were probably the big proponents in getting me in, so shout out to them for getting me into LD. But yeah, here's my week 1 game. This is against VM Nunes, or Nunes, I don't know how you actually say it, but he's a good player. He was on my Crusaders team for DPL, so I know him reasonably well as a battler. He's very talented, and like I said, it's LD, so people are generally a lot stronger than I'd see in most of my other leagues. But definitely a tough week 1 matchup for us. On paper, definitely a huge problem with his team. Like the combination of Scizor plus Lopunny was really difficult for me to deal with as far as checking defensively. And then breaking through his Swampert plus Tangrowth cores is really difficult for me as well. He also had a Hydreigon and a Reuniclus that he did not bring, so I was pretty sad that I ended up actually bringing AV Drapion to this match. I think if one of those 2 had come, it might have done something, but looking at what he ended up bringing, it's really not that great here, unfortunately. What else did I bring here? I brought Boots, Pain Split, Rotom with Overheat and Discharge and Defog, I believe, or Volt Switch and Defog for this matchup. Mamo's just pretty standard Stealth Rock, Life Orb Mamo with Dual Stab and Ice Shard. Latios, Life Orb, Calm Mind, Mystical Fire, Draco. Hits pretty much everything on his team since he actually didn't have a fairy on his draft. So Draco hits everything except Scizor, and then Mystical Fire obviously bops that thing. So Calm Mind, Roost with Life Orb. Like I mentioned, AV Drapion. I believe I have Double Dark to deal with the Reuniclus, so Knockoff and Crunch, as well as Earthquake and Fire Fang, I believe. It's been a while since this match was played, but I believe that's the set on the Drapion this week. Aerodactyl is Taunt Toxic, Wing Attack, and Roost. I think Taunt Toxic made the most sense in this matchup. I can spread status pretty well to most of his team, and I don't need a whole lot besides Wing Attack. Obviously, I got to worry a little bit about Flame Body from Talonflame since I'm not carrying the Rock-type move, but I really just need the Wing Attack for revenging Lopunny, dealing with Lopunny in general. With my Aerodactyl, and Toxic is able to punish the Swampert on switch in. Taunt lets me stop him from getting up rocks, things like that. I thought it was pretty nice. I can also taunt things like the Tangrowth to prevent them from sleep powdering or stun sporing or anything like that on my Aerodactyl. And then Girder, lastly, is Guts with Bulk Up. No, not Bulk Up this week. It's Drain Punch, Mach Punch, Knockoff, and Fire Punch to hit the Scizor, because like I said, I am really weak to Scizor despite having the Rotom Heat here. I am pretty weak to that mon, so I brought the Girder. I think Girder matches up decently well. I'd have enough Spadef investment, I believe, to live a Choice Specs Hydreigon Draco, and it should do a huge amount back with Drain Punch, get a lot of my health back, and then be able to pick it off with Mach Punch. And then obviously I can take on the Lopunny pretty well with just Girder's natural bulk. I might have had a little bit of Fizdef investment as well, but overall I think Girder's matchup was generally pretty good in this one. Yeah, so getting into the match here at lead, I'm looking at his team, and there's really no reason not to lead Girder. I feel like he's probably going to lead Lopunny or Swampert. Swampert if he wants to get rocks up pretty quickly. Lopunny otherwise, pretty much. So I'm going to lead with Girder here. I guess I could have led with Aerodactyl, but that immediately would put me in a weird spot with the Swampert if I wanted to taunt or not, and might get Skull Burn. So I decided to leave with Girder, and I'm pretty sure since he led Lop, he's just going to fake me out, but I don't want to risk him U-turning out and getting his Swampert for free and on my Aerodactyl, so I'm just going to stay in here, take the fake out, and then click knock off on the pretty obvious Talonflame coming in. It's either that or Nidoking, and knocking off either of those is going to be good for me. I switch out into Rotom Heat here on what I was obviously expecting to be a Brave Bird, but U-turn is fine. Swampert comes out, and I can just get right into my Latios here and start to pressure his team. I'm really looking at his team, and I was expecting to bring AV Reuniclus to deal with Latios, but for some reason I didn't really clock that he would bring AV Tangrowth to deal with Latios, so I'm looking here, I'm like, oh, I can just drop a Draco and pick up a kill, but that's Max Bidef AV Tangrowth, so that's certainly not the case here. That's going to be a huge problem for me. With the Latios going forward, so I'm just going to go out into my Drapion. Like I said, it's really quite useless in this matchup since he didn't bring either Reuniclus or the Hydreigon, so I guess I can switch into Tangrowth alright, but otherwise it's not too useful. Here I make obviously something of a misplay. I'm predicting him to go for Roost here, and I want to keep his Talonflame low for my Girder, so I go for a Earthquake, predicting the Roost, but unfortunately he just throws off a Will-O-Wisp and catches my Drapion. Since I already showed my initial switch in as Rotom Heat, I wasn't really expecting him to go for any kind of status here. I thought he would just either U-turn again or Roost, but unfortunately he does catch me with the Will-O-Wisp there, and this Drapion is really not doing much burn without its Assault Vest against a team with no Hydreigon and Reuniclus, so not in a great spot here so far. I don't have the chip on Talonflame that I would like for my Girder, and now he can pretty freely Roost on me anyways. Like, Burned Earthquake, even on a Roost, is not going to be doing much to him. So I gotta get out of here. There's no reason for me to leave Drapion here and just while he heals up. He's obviously going for Roost this turn, or so I thought. But he ends up going for U-turn. At least the Talonflame's low and it's bootsless, so if I can get up rocks, that's really good for my Girder in the back. But I really don't have great switch-ins to Swampert, so I end up bringing the Girder in here, kind of hoping that I get Skull Burn because I am Guts, and that would allow me to do some big damage to the Talonflame, but not the case in this instance. I double out into Rotom, catching the Talonflame switch in, but then I just go for Volt Switch because I really don't have anything to punish much of his team. I didn't bring Toxic on Rotom, so I couldn't punish Swampert, and I really didn't super mind it coming in because I could go Latios or something, but now I'm in kind of a weird stalemate with Nidoking because I am faster, but like, you see that Sludge Wave does way too much damage to me, and now my best Scizor check is basically dead. So I can never hard switch into Rotom Heat on Scizor later in the game, unfortunately. He just keeps spamming up his rocks. Sorry, that was my cat over there doing something. But he just gets up his rocks as my arrow comes out, and I'm just going to click Wing Attack and scat out his Swampert set a little bit. He's looking pretty physically defensive, and he does show lefties, which is not too surprising. I was expecting more or less Stealth Rock, Earthquake, Scald, and Toxic this game, so, or maybe Roar or something like that for my Latios, so not too surprised to see lefties on the pert as he finally gets the Skull Burn off, and you can see my Girder's quite low. Burn Drain Punch is still doing good damage to Talonflame, but basically my only hope here is that he decides to Roost with his Talonflame and I can get some Drain Punch recovery back, but he makes a smart play and just knocks me out with Brave Bird, because like, my best switch-in's Rotom Heat. I really have nothing that Rotom Heat can do versus team with that Swampert still so healthy, so I kind of have to go out into my Mega Arrow here and click Toxic. I didn't expect the Talonflame to want to stay in, regardless of the situation there, because there's really no reason to sack it off at that point. Swampert's such a free switch in. So I go for the Toxic there, and I get that play right at least. Get the status on Swampert. And again, Swampert's pretty free for my Latios to come in. I am a little, again, worried that he would Toxic me, but it doesn't seem like he's playing as though he has it at this point. So it's a pretty free Roost for my Latios there. As he goes out into Talonflame, presumably not caring too much if it gets sacked off, but you can still save it in the back by U-turning around, and I keep dropping Dracos on this Tangrowth coming in when I really need to be Calm Minding to boost through it, so definitely a bit of a misplay here on my end, Dracoing twice into Tangrowth. Like, first time okay, but second time, like, I really should figure that play out and either Roost on the U-turn or get a Calm Mind off on the Tangrowth. Here I get my Aerodactyl in, go for Roost, get myself nice and healthy again, and I'm able to KO the Talonflame, thankfully not getting burned in the process. I don't know if he was Flame Body, probably was, but I guess he could have also been Gale Wings. But at least Aerodactyl is relatively healthy at this point. I definitely need to defog these rocks, though, at some point. Scizor comes out, and I don't really have switch-ins for Bullet Punch at this point in the match. Like, Girder would have been okay switch into Bullet Punch somewhere along the way, but as with Rotom Heat, obviously, but with my Rotom Heat so low, I couldn't hard switch into it on a Bullet Punch and end up taking two, so I gotta go in here again on a free switch. and go for Pain Split. I was hoping the Swampert would come out there and I'd get a little bit more health, but that's not the case. I go out into Aerodactyl here on the Nidoking. Again, kind of another misplay, because I went out thinking, oh, I can roost up on this Nidoking, get some health back. But I went out and I was like, well, if he just clicks Earth Power on my roost, I die. So it looks like that was probably what he was trying to do on that play, but I ended up kind of figuring that out after the fact and knocking him out. But again, Scizor just comes out and it pretty much picks up a KO every time it hits the field, because my Rotom's so low. So I have to get out here again and Pain Split up with my Rotom, which he finally allows me to do on the Tangrowth here. I'm at least relatively healthy now in my Rotom Heat, and I can just defog away these rocks finally that have been pressuring my Aerodactyl so much, because I figured he would go for knockoff this turn, and getting rid of the rocks means that I don't need my boots anymore anyways, and I could just Pain Split back up to a relatively good amount of HP. So not wanting to risk his Tangrowth there. He switches out his Swampert, as I get a pretty fat Pain Split off, and now at least Rotom's relatively healthy and can check the Scizor pretty well. Actually, not having my boots is pretty good for me, because he can't get rocks back up, because it doesn't appear that Swampert has them, and the Scizor now will have reduced damage on its knockoffs versus me, so that's something. But Mammo comes out here, I just click Earthquake. If he wants to give me the Swampert, that's close to a win with the combination of Rotom plus Arrow, so I wanted to go after that win if I could. But now I'm just going to get up rocks. Late game rocks here help to really chip down the Scizor, which has been switching in quite a bit, and gets me some necessary chip damage on Swampert to help put it in range of Wing Attack potentially. So out comes Arrow, out comes Swampert. This turn, like, I'm not anticipating at this point what's about to happen, because I'm, again, coming into this game expecting something like Scald, Earthquake, Toxic, but not really adjusting to the fact that he's shown A, one move, which is Scald, and B, no Toxic on my Latios, no Stealth Rocks after my Rotom got rid of them, nothing like that. So for some reason I wasn't anticipating Restock Swampert set. If I was, that still would have made this turn something of a 50-50, because if he is Restock here, and I click Taunt and he Scalds me and I die, I lose, because Rotom can't break through the combination of, well, Swampert and the Lopunny plus Scizor remaining. But if I get that play right and I get that taunt off, all I need to do is roost one time and be out of range, or have him be in range of a Wing Attack. Obviously, I would probably have to not get burned to be able to still deal with the Lopunny, but it is only a 30% chance to get a Scald Burn. So, again, not anticipating Restock. I think my play here is to roost and hope I don't get Scald Burned. I think it's just 2 turns until he's in range of Wing Attack, so I basically have to think, I'm thinking to myself, I have to roost twice and not get Scald Burned, but I roost here, again, expecting them just trying not to get burned, but he does reveal the rest, and that's more or less going to be game. Restock Swampert just walls the combination of Aerodactyl and Rotom at this point. Like, I can taunt him so that he can't get damage out, but there's really nothing I can do. I could go hard Rotom Heat here and go for a Pain Split, but that's not really going to benefit me all that much at this point in the game, as opposed to just clicking Wing Attack, because Rotom is relatively healthy at this point. But like I said, I can skip a little bit faster through these turns. Swampert's more or less just going to wall me out here. There's not a whole lot I can do about that. I try to chip him down here, you see, with the Rotom and go for a crit, but he wasn't even in range of a crit at the end of the game. And Swampert's just going to clean up. So overall, for my first game, definitely not how I wanted to start out. I think I could have definitely brought a better team. Bring Drapion, like I said, ended up kind of turning out to be dead weight. I feel like I probably could have come up with some better options for dealing with the combination of Hydreigon plus Reuniclus, even though both didn't end up showing. I probably could have come up with a better answer than just AV Drapion. That was the last member that I ended up slapping on my team, and I really wasn't sure. But by bringing Drapion over something like Jellicent, I ended up being really weak to the Scizor. Like, it just claimed with Bullet Punch, especially after I gave the Nidoking so much health on my Rotom Heat. And then also, I think not being prepared, obviously, for the Restock Swampert, or not even really considering the Restock Swampert during the game, obviously really hurt me in the end of that one. So it goes down as a 3-0 loss. Not too bad to start out. Usually I start out kind of slow while I try to kind of feel out my team. I'll usually end up making some transactions because I don't always draft like a perfect team. But yeah, going forward, definitely hoping to kind of turn the ship around and bring a better team, play a little bit better the next time. But that's my game 1. Game 2 here is against Rin. Rin's team is terrifying. So Rin's got, you can see Gallade, Weavile, Skarm, Nidoqueen, and Tapu Fini, all of which were enormous threats to my team. Skarm walls Arrow pretty badly, so I had to bring Taunt this week. and also walls Mammo pretty badly. Even if you bring like a metronome set, it's not super reliable because they fixed the mechanics on metronome. So if you miss an icicle crash, it resets. I believe that's the case. I know it resets on protect now, as it should have in the first place, but I'm pretty sure it also resets on a miss. So I really couldn't bank on metronome Mammo this week. So it's just really difficult to deal with this team, and like Tapu Fini outspeeds Mammo anyway, which is not great. Originally looking at my matchup, I was like, Calm Mind, Taunt, Draining Kiss, Tapu Fini just absolutely destroys my team, so I had to bring Tangela. And then Gallade also kind of destroys my team, but I don't have great answers for that. I've got a pretty bulky Latios this game. I think it was like Calm Mind, Psyshock, T-Bolt with Roost, and it was either... Oh no, it wasn't Roost. It was Calm Mind... What the hell was it? Oh, no, this was a jank Latios. It was not Calm Mind. It was Psyshock, T-Bolt, Roost with Psych Up, hoping to take advantage of his Tapu Fini. I think it was Roselli Berry, if I'm not mistaken. It's either that or Weakness Policy, but I'm pretty sure I ended up going for Roselli Berry. Again, it's been a long time since this game was played, but yeah, it was really jank Latios, basically banking on him bringing Calm Mind, Draining Kiss, Tapu Fini, because I thought that seemed really likely versus my team, because again, it kind of 6-0s me, and I think he actually had brought it week 1 at this point. Anyways, I'm rambling a little bit. Really jank Latios with the Psych Up. Rotom Heat is just nasty plot, dual stab, being Overheat and Discharge. In retrospect, I think Volt Switch would have been a little bit better than Discharge, and you'll see why in the match. The Melmetal is Iron Defense Body Press, Double Iron Bash with, I believe, Toxic. Toxic was meant to hit something that's not here. I can't remember what it was. I think he had a Flame Body Mon or something that I wanted to Toxic, if you happen to bring it. Oh, it's Thundurus, I think. He has a Thundurus Therian at this point that I wanted to Toxic with the Melmetal, but such is life. So Melmetal's actually pretty decent here. I think I have Protective Pads this week as well to deal with potential Rocky Helmet Scarm, which I felt like was pretty likely versus my team. Arrow is, I believe, Taunt, Roost, Earthquake, and Swing Attack. I think that's right. Mammo is Sash, Endeavor, lead with Stealth Rock, and Tangela is Max Spadef with Power Whip to deal with the Tapu Fini, because again, Calm Mind Tapu Fini was a huge problem for me this week. I felt like I had to bring Power Whip to hit it from the physical side, so that it wouldn't just totally shut me down. Yeah, so looking at lead here, I mean, I have Sash Mamoswine, so I'm leading Sash Mamoswine. I don't really care what he leads with. He happens to lead with the Snorlax, and again, because I am focused Sash, I really don't care what he's going to go for. Stealth Rocks are pretty important for me in this game, especially if that Weavile's not Boots. But getting Chip off on his team is going to be really important in general, as he just Toxics me there with the Snorlax, which was not wholly unexpected. Anyways, I'm expecting Skarm to come out here and try and defog, so I'll go out into my Rotom Heat to punish that, and I can get a free Nasty Plot off right off the bat, start pressuring his team. And here's where I mentioned I would have really liked to have Volt Switch over Discharge here, because if I Nasty Plot here and get some good Volt Switch chip off on this Snorlax, like I'm pretty sure he's going to Toxic me again anyways. If I get Volt Switch off there, I'll probably do around 20%, 25% maybe. I can start to chip down the Snorlax as I get out into my Melmetal on the Toxic, but instead he's just going to get back to full with Lefty's recovery, and now I have to try and do something with Melmetal instead. Again, getting that chip off would have been a really nice kind of long game for Rotom Heat, but again, this is kind of, you'll learn as you go with the prep sometimes, and Volt Switch in retrospect would have been a lot better. Anyways, here I'm just going to Body Press, and I'm pretty sure this Skarm has Whirlwind, but I'm just going to get some Body Press damage off on the Skarm, and really hope he doesn't Whirlwind me out into Mamoswine. Of course, he does Whirlwind me out into Mamoswine. That was like worst case scenario, was the Whirlwind into Mamoswine, because if he Whirlwinds me into Aerodactyl, I can taunt him, keep the Skarm relatively low. If he Whirlwinds me out into Tangela, I can just knock him off. Like, at least that gets rid of his leftovers, because he'd probably Roost to get his health back. And I can start getting some Leech Seed action going, try to pressure him that way. If I go into Latios, I can kill him with T-Bolt. If I get into Melmetal, I can go back to Iron Defense Body Pressing, or I can actually just spam Body Press at him, because if he roosts in front of me as a Body Press, it's going to be super effective, and it's going to do about as much as it did that first time. So if I start getting some Iron Defenses and Body Presses going, even just one Iron Defense on a Roost is going to be doing like 70% to Skarm. So literally anything besides the Mamoswine would have been great there. Rotom Heat obviously would have been ideal, because it immediately would threaten out the Skarm. But really anything besides Mamoswine would have been great, because now he's just going to get a free Roost off, and what little progress I have made is now gone. So He decides to roost up here as I go back into Rotom Heat. And again, this is a pretty free, nasty plot for me. And again, if I had Volt Switch, this Snorlax would not... Oh, I did just T-Bolt. That was really bad play. If I did have Volt Switch there, this Snorlax already would have been about 20% lower, like I mentioned. I could have Nasty Pod there, got another 20% off, and just gone right back into Melmetal. But instead, I have basically no chip on this Snorlax and no chip on the Skarm. So that's great. Here, I'm pretty sure he's going to predict me to go back out into Melmetal and try to punch me with Nidoqueen, so I decided to go out into the Mamoswine, which I felt like was generally the best way to cover it. And he does not reveal an item, so I'm expecting Life Orb, obviously. And I'm just going to click Earthquake here. There's no reason to mess around with the Nidoqueen. If he does decide to stay in and attack me, and I can take that thing from him, that's great for my Snorlax, or not my Snorlax, my Aerodactyl and my Rotom Heat, but he does just make the smart play there and go into Skarm. So I started out okay in terms of predicting what he was going to do, but then I just kind of let the Skarm and Snorlax get back to full health and wasted what little progress I had made chipping them down in the first 10 turns. So now he's basically back up to full. He's starting to Spike Stack me, and I didn't bring any removal this week. Again, I get another opportunity to Nasty Plot with Rotom, and again, I don't have Volt Switch, so I just have to kind of spam T-Bolt at him and try and break through this Snorlax at this point. I think this is just a case of me getting a little bit impatient and realizing I'm not going to win the long game if I keep playing the way I have been. So I'm trying to just muscle through this Snorlax with +2 Rotom Heat, but I'm taking a lot of chip damage as he actually reveals Encore, which is pretty cool tech for Latios. I'm assuming that was for Calm Mind Latios anyway. But he goes for Encore there, and I'm pretty much forced to switch out to prevent him from getting in the Nidoqueen for free, as he just makes the correct play here in Darkest Lariat. It's chipping down my Mamo pretty well. It's a pretty free Earthquake for me because I do have Endeavor. I don't mind if he goes Skarm, because getting chip damage isn't going to matter when I'm going to Endeavor him down anyway. So I'm going to take some pretty significant toxic damage there, and this is my opportunity to just Endeavor and die with Mamoswine. Basically take the Skarm out of play. I didn't think he'd anticipate that in Roost. That would have been a godlike play. So I'm able to get some great chip on the Skarm, and it's more or less dead at this point. It can't roost up on anything, I think. Maybe unboosted Melmetal it could roost up on, but that's about it. Here I just click T-Bolt because A, I don't want the Skarm roosting, particularly a Nasty Plot, and B, I thought it would 2-hit KO based on the earlier damage for the Snorlax, but it turns out it was a roll, and I don't end up getting the roll. So I take an extra turn of Toxic Chip, and I take that 22% from the Darkest Lariat, and now my Rotom's also like pretty close to dead. So really difficult start to this game, but at least I've gotten rid of essentially the Snorlax and the Skarm at this point, but in the process I've also lost my Mamoswine and more or less lost my Rotom Heat. So Gallade comes out here, and I do not have a switch in, so I've got to sack off my Rotom Heat here to Drain Punch and just go out and Revenge with Aerodactyl. That's fine by me. Aerodactyl is going to force a KO here as well, so I'm okay going 1-for-1 at this point, as he just decides to sack off the Skarm. So that's great because I don't have to worry about it with my Melmetal later coming in and roosting up. But at the same time, like, we're in a tough spot losing out on the Rotom Heat for sure, because Rotom Heat's really good for pressuring this in particular, this Tapu Fini, because I am faster and able to do a good sizable chunk of damage with T-Bolt. But I at the very least do have Spadef Tangela here, which I am going to go out into on the Surf. Seeing Surf doesn't necessarily reveal anything about his set, but he could still be Calm Mind for all I know. Here I unfortunately miss a Leech Seed. That would have been a really nice Leech Seed to hit, because with Seeds Recovery, I actually guaranteed live Life Orb Sludge Wave from Nidoqueen, because I am, like I mentioned, I max Spadef Tangela with Eviolite. So what I could have done was Leech Seed up there and then knock off the Nidoqueen on this turn, which would have been really, really nice, because then my Tangela would have been pretty darn healthy. This Nidoqueen would have been significantly chipped down, and I would have basically been able to 1v1 it, or at least get out into Aerodactyl with Leech Seed up on the Nidoqueen. Instead, I missed the Leech Seed. I gotta go hard Aerodactyl, and he's just able to get up his Stealth Rocks, which is gonna be pretty problematic for my future Aerodactyl switch-ins. Here I'm gonna Wing Attack. I get a crit, but based on that damage, it was a 2-hit KO anyway. And he T-Bolts, and unfortunately I am just barely in range of Stealth Rocks here, so I'm not gonna be able to come back in later in the match. So landing that Leech Seed would have been quite nice, but you know, it is what it is. I'm expecting the Weavile to have Ice Shard anyway, and the Blade to potentially have Shadow Sneak, so I may not have been able to save Aerodactyl at that point anyways. Here I'm just going to roost up, hoping he chokes and goes for Calm Mind, and allows me to get my Aerodactyl back, because it's really my only way of beating the Gallade at this point, unless he... Oh, no, I was Cobra Berry on Latios. That's what it was. Sorry, random tangent. But, yeah, I was hoping he would just let me roost up here, maybe go for a Calm Mind, thinking I'm like kind of set up fodder for him. But he does make the correct play and just spam Surf at me. He doesn't allow me to get my Aerodactyl back, unfortunately. And here I'm just going to go back out into Tangela. It's really the only thing that can deal with a Tapu Fini that's this healthy. I go for Leech Seed here as he taunts. In retrospect, probably should have knocked off there to prevent him getting all this leftovers recovery that he's been getting. But he hadn't shown taunt yet, so I wasn't really sure if he had it anyways. But here I'm going to go for Power Whip. Unfortunately, miss. That would have been pretty nice to hit, but again, I'm not sure exactly how much it would have mattered. Because if I land the Power Whip, sure, I might 2-hit KO, depending on the rolls. Or at least it would be in range of Lattie's T-Bolt, guaranteed. Because Latios should live +2 Shadow Sneak. It turned out, actually, he didn't have knockoff, but I had the Cobra anyway for that. But turns out he didn't have knockoff, and like I mentioned, I am pretty close to max Fizz Def Latios. So I go for T-Bolt here. You can see without the Power Whip damage, I don't get the roll to knock it out. And now I'm in range of whatever Weavile or the Gallade wants to go for. He should go out into Gallade, though, because it denies me from getting an Iron Defense up with my Melmetal. So I T-Bolt here, KO the Latios, and the Gallade comes out, and I basically just have to hope he's slower than me, and doesn't have Shadow Sneak. So I go for the Psyshock here, as he goes for SD. And again, I had to hope he was slower than me, or this was a speed tie or something, and I got the roll, but he is faster and is able to just KO me with Drain Punch there. And +2 Drain Punch is also going to clean up my Melmetal here. So started out the season 0-2, unfortunately, obviously not the way I wanted to go. You could say maybe I land that Leech Seed, maybe I land that Power Whip, I've got a chance, but there's definitely no guarantee that I still would have won. I was pretty weak to Gallade in the back, so starting out 0-2, not great. Differential's not terrible. I'm 0-2 -5 at this point in the season, and I've already played what I considered to be two of my harder matchups, at least team-wise, going in. I think both those guys actually started out 2-0, if I'm not mistaken, as well. Or maybe even 3-0, I'm not sure. But definitely two difficult matchups for me. Starting out Scizor versus my team, just really problematic. Gallade versus my team, with the combination of his defensive core here, as well as Tapu Fini, was hugely problematic. So, again, getting two of the harder matchups out of the way right up front. I'm still not super happy with how my teams have been functioning. They felt pretty clunky. Again, I do usually start out pretty slow in terms of prepping as I get used to a team and moving pieces around and things like that. But definitely my first two builds have felt pretty clunky here. Melmetal's been tough to bring. I actually did end up dropping Melmetal. I don't think... Did I bring it again? I can't remember if I brought it again. I don't think I did. But I did end up dropping Melmetal eventually for Metagross. And that allowed me to upgrade Tangela to Superior. And I had to drop Komala as well in that deal. So it was Komala, Tangela, and Melmetal for Metagross and Superior. I just felt like that fit the team a lot better. I'm pretty comfortable using Metagross and not so comfortable using Melmetal. I really needed the extra rocker, just a whole lot of things that Metagross was able to give me that Melmetal just really wasn't doing for me in the first couple weeks. So having said that, I brought none of those Pokemon to this game in Week 3. This Week 3 is against Vulcan, who... I can't remember how he started out his season. He might have been 1-1 at this point. But definitely is a pretty threatening team. The Mega Aggron's obviously a problem for my Aerodactyl to get through. I'm going to need to chip that thing down with something like Jellicent earlier in the game. Galardarm is a menace to society. Choice Scarf Galardarm was super scary versus my team. I had to bring Jellicent for that. I believe this was Rocky Helmet. I might have just decided on Lefty's Jellicent, now that I think about it. But Galardarm's a huge problem for my team. Just Icicle Crash, Flare Blitz, U-Turn, and whatever. I guess Earthquake is really all he needs versus me. Hugely problematic for my squad to deal with Galardarm at a time. I think he hits like a truck. What else on his team? He's got Dragapult, but I have a Sylveon, which is generally one of the better counters Dragapult you're going to find. Suicune required some creativity on my part, because I really didn't have a great Suicune matchup. I didn't have Superior yet at this time. I think I made the transactions this week, so I still had Tangela, and I was like, Tangela is really not doing it for me this game. Dude's got freaking Galardarm. So I really wasn't feeling Tangela this matchup, and I figured the Suicune could probably just pressure stall me anyways. It was Rest Talk Calm Mind, so I didn't want to deal with that. So I brought Komala. It's actually like a very specially bulky Komala with leftovers. SD Rapid Spin, Earthquake, and Knockoff. SD allows me to boost up enough to actually do some damage to the Suicune, because obviously normally that set isn't going to do much without the SD boost. And with Rapid Spin, I believe I had EV'd it to outspeed Suicune after one Rapid Spin. Or maybe it was defensive Suicune after one Rapid Spin, something like that. But the idea was SD up, Rapid Spin, get faster, knock off its leftovers, and just keep it chipped. As long as the Suicune's chipped, I should be able to deal with it with Latios, with Mamoswine, because I anticipate that I'd be faster with Mamoswine, unless he runs like max speed or something, but then he's sacrificing a lot of bulk. And then also Aerodactyl, of course, getting the Suicune chipped is good for that. So, yeah, that's more or less a team. I believe this is Choice Specs Latios, because again, no Fairy type on the other side of the field. Draco was really free this match. I think Specs Draco to max Spadef Mega Aggron still does like 40 or some outrageous number. So I can pretty much get in Latios on things like Suicune and just click Draco Meteor all game and claim KOs. And if he's not like Scarfed or Manitan or anything like that, free KOs with Latios this game more or less. I believe this was Focus Sash lead Mamo once again with Stealth Rock, because again, at this point I don't have Metagross yet, and I don't really want to shoehorn rocks onto Arrow this matchup, which I believe is running Roost, Earthquake, Wing Attack, Stone Edge. Either that or Taunt, but I think it's Stone Edge this week. And then, like I mentioned, just kind of standard mixed defensive Sylveon to deal with the Dragapult, and Max Fizz-Def Jellicent to deal with the Darmanitan. So at lead, again, I have Sash Mamoswine, so I'm leading Sash Mamoswine. I noticed he didn't bring any removals, so Rocks Up were really good to pressure the Darmanitan anyways, so I'm just going to go for Rocks as he goes for sub, and like as soon as I see that HP stat, I'm like, this is sub Belly Drum Darmanitan, and this dude just tried to sweep me with it turn 1, so I'm like, that's fine by me. You can Belly Drum up. I'm going to click Earthquake, break the sub, because like I said, I am Focus Sash Mamoswine. And yeah, getting the giant threat that is Galar Darmanitan out of the way, turn 3 here with another Earthquake. Huge for me. Great job by Mamoswine. Gets up Rocks, KOs the Darmanitan. That's really all I needed to do this match. Ice Shard is still useful if he doesn't have Sucker Punch on Dragapult, which I don't really think he would. So I'm just going to swap out here on the Suicune, and as he actually ends up going for Toxic, which obviously does not affect a Comatose Komala. And he also can't Scald Burn me. I don't think I mentioned that during the earlier portion of the game, but he cannot Scald Burn me. Here I go for Earthquake because I thought, okay, well, he just revealed Toxic. He might be like Subtoxic Suicune. I'm going to try to get in his Aggron here to get up Rocks or something like that. So I wanted to try and punish him if he did, because Earthquake, I believe, would have done a huge amount of damage to the Aggron before it Mega Evolves, since it is 4 times super effective at that point. And getting all that chip off on Aggron basically would have meant Latios picked up a KO every time I hit the field. But he does stay in there and just goes for Scald. Does only 23%. I don't know if he knows at this point in the game that Scald can't burn Komala, but he doesn't really have great switch-ins now that I've shown that I've avoided Earthquake. So I'm just going to knock off here, remove the Suicune's lefties. Like I said, Komala was more or less here to trade for the Suicune, because get rid of its lefties, gets rid of its recovery, and I can just kind of sit here in front of it and boost up a little bit. So like I mentioned, even though things happened a little out of sequence, Swords Dance into Rapid Spin should get me faster than this Suicune, as it does. And now I'm actually have some kind of appreciable damage output here. So I believe I'm just going to click Rapid Spin again. Yeah, so I click Rapid Spin again here, thinking, well, maybe I can actually sweep if he doesn't have Sucker Punch on Dragapult, because look at his team. Like, if I'm +2/+2, he has to go into Aggron for Revenge Kill me. I get off chip damage on that, which is great for Latios, and then I can just go into Mamoswine and click Earthquake. Like, it seemed like a really good situation for me if I did that, but then he does reveal to be the Rest Talk set on his Suicune. So his Rest Talk, Scald Toxic, which is not a huge problem for me, because I am able to just keep Swords Dance boosting in front of it, but it does mean that I don't get quite as much momentum out of this as I had hoped for. I am just basically going to have to trade the Komala for the Suicune here. So again, looking at the Scald turns here, I am able to live extra turns as I just go for Earthquake and knock out this Suicune, or get the Suicune quite low. I actually don't get a chance to knock it out here. I'm just going to click Earthquake here again. Maybe that was a bit of a misplay, but I wanted to deny him from ever going Aggron, so I didn't click Knock Off this turn. Do get a crit on the Celebi. Not sure how much that mattered, if at all, in the long run, but getting Earthquake damage off on the Celebi is still good for me anyway. And I'm thinking, what's Celebi going to do to me? Is he just going to sack this off? But it turns out he's Sucker Punch on Celebi, which I did not even know that it could learn. So He's able to KO my Kamala, unfortunately, which looked like it was in a really good position to dent his team, but I'm just going to get out into Arrow here and freely Mega Evolve. Here I really, really wanted to click Earthquake this turn, and obviously should have because he ended up going Aggron. But I didn't want to risk anything with the Celebi. I wanted to keep it low for my Jellicent and just go straight for the wing attack. I also didn't want to... yeah, I mean, it was more or less just to make sure I KO'd the Celebi if he decided to stay in with it. I really didn't think he'd save it at that point in the game because it seemed kind of like fodder, but he did end up switching out and making the correct play into Aggron, so I don't get anything out of that turn, unfortunately. Aggron's able to come in and get its Mecha off, which is not what I wanted. Here, assuming he'll just go for Stealth Rocks, I go out into my Mamoswine as he reveals to be Toxic on this as well. That was an equally fine play. Toxic was good for anything he would hit with it. So he's able to KO my Mamoswine there. I'm not able to get off a free Earthquake. Here I'm just going to go out and Jellicent. It's really the only thing that can deal with Aggron at this point. I basically just have to Scald Burn Hex my way through it. Get the burn turn 1, which is great for me. He just Toxics me. And I am pretty sure at this point that I'm going to have to trade Jellicent for Aggron. But again, I don't really mind doing that because the Darm's already dead. But he does reveal to be Rest Talk on Aggron as well. So this looks like Rest Talk Heavy Slam Toxic to me. But Hex is a roll pretty in my favor to 3-hit KO here. I get a pretty low roll on the first one, and I'm getting a little bit nervous. But he just Sleep Talks another Toxic here. Heavy Slam wouldn't be doing much to Jellicent anyways because I am Max Fizz Def. So I'm just going to have to try and muscle through the Aggron here and basically hope he gives it to me so that my Latios can do some work. I get a much better roll on the Hex the next time, which guarantees, I think, or not quite guarantees, but as long as I don't get min roll again, I should be able to KO with the third Hex and knock out this Aggron, which thankfully he does allow me to do. So the Aggron out of the way means that, and not being able to rest back up means that anytime Latios comes in on something like Camerupt or Suicune, or even Celebi, since I'm at max HP, or I'm at full HP right now, I get a KO with Draco, basically, at this point in the game. So he goes out into Suicune, and he just rests back up on the Jellicent. Unfortunately, I knew he was going to be faster than me there, so there was really nothing I could do to prevent that. But I do go out into my Sylveon. I just throw up a Wish. I wasn't sure what would come out there. I mean, Camel was a perfectly reasonable play, but I figure Wish Pass into Latios guarantees me a kill. Because like I said, anytime Latios gets in for free on Suicune or Camerupt, I can just drop a Draco and kill something. I get a crit here, but I was modest Specs Latios, so unless he was like, I think I did the calc after the game, and even if he was max Def Camerupt, I still had like a 38% chance to KO. I don't know if that's what he was or not, but modest Specs Latios claiming its KO there. Here out comes the Dragapult, reveals to be Life Orb on the Shadow Ball damage. I am anticipating him still to be mixed with Steel Wing, but I do live that, guaranteed. So I'll just stay in here with Sylveon, KO the Dragapult, and that's pretty much the last big offensive threat to my team dead, in my head anyway. Like that seems to be pretty much it. He goes out into Celebi here, and I just, like, Sylveon's Rock's fodder anyway, so I'm just going to stay in here and click Hyper Voice, prevent him from healing up on anything, as he knocks me out with the Leaf Blade. So it looks like he's fully physical Celebi with leftovers. I got into Arrow here. I can just click Wing Attack pretty freely, get some good chip off on the Suicune, and like I mentioned earlier, every time I get in on Suicune, because I know it's Scald Toxic, I can just drop a Draco and pick up a KO. So he reads that pretty well here as I go into my Latios, and he goes out into Celebi, but like I mentioned, I am at full HP here, so Sucker Punch is not going to knock me out. So all I have to do here is drop a Draco, knock out the Celebi, and then reset my drops with the Latios. But unfortunately I miss. Missing sucks there, not because it's going to necessarily cost me the game, but obviously I was going to win 3-0 without a miss, because I could have just cycled into Jellicent on the Suicune. I would not have died toxic damage that turn, and then I could just swap back into Latios and click Specs Thunderbolt and pick up the KO on Suicune and pick up this 3-0 dub. Instead I miss on the Celebi, and it actually opens the door for him to win, because he Swords Dances, and that's pretty scary, because I know he's got Sucker Punch. He's not going to risk another Draco here, like he's already gotten bailed out here with one miss, but his play was actually probably to go for a second, predicting me to switch out. But I do just sack my Jellicent here, and I can just click Hex to knock him out. So even with him not being burned, Hex should still do enough to knock him out. So he goes for Leaf Blade there, knocks out my Jellicent, and Arrow's able to come out here. And I calc this beforehand, I do live Sucker Punch, so I'm able to KO this Celebi back, and thankfully still be able to pick up my win. I am able to pick up a 2-0 here, because I can just swap out into Latios hard on Suicune, and just click T-Bolt to clean up the game. But
Obviously not quite as clean as I was hoping it would be. Latios landed that Drago, but the team's kind of starting to come together at this point. Like, I'm starting to understand how I should be building with it, getting Latios in the most optimal opportunities for it to click Draco and such. So hopefully going forward, again, build a little bit better. But I thought this team just felt a lot less clunky than my first 2 weeks, and it showed in being able to win this week. So 1 and 2, gonna start climbing out of the hole here, and I'll pick it up here next video with my week 4 match. But thank you guys very much for watching to this point. If you did, I actually don't know how long I've rambled on at this point, but I feel like it's been a while. But thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll be bringing you another video with my week 4 through 6 matches next. So yeah, catch you later.